Welcome to this short video designed to accompany the practice quiz for the digital badge on exploring relationships and graphs. The digital badge is part of the Data Science for All seminar series designed to introduce big data and data science topics to college students with no prior programming experience. If you stumbled upon this video and want to learn more about the seminar series, please visit us at the URL listed here. When studying for the digital badge, we suggest trying the practice quiz and then clicking on a link to this video in the answer explanation. Similar to all of the other materials in the seminar series, this presentation is provided under the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license. In this video, we will be using the Neo4j sandbox on movie recommendations. The sandboxes are made available by Neo4j and covered separately by their license. Please see the Neo4j website for the terms under which they make their system available. It is not covered by this license. The question covered in this video is based on the Neo4j sandbox for movie recommendations. If you have not created a sandbox, please see the instructions in Canvas. If you stumbled upon this video, you too can follow along by creating a free sandbox at the URL shown here. The question we are asking of the data in this video is, what actor has been in the most movies directed by Alfred Hitchcock? Before writing our query, we should understand what data we have in the database that we are working with. To do this, run the command call db.schema.visualization. In the seminar, we called the command db.schema, but Neo4j has added additional capabilities, so that command has been updated. Keep this output pane displayed. You can even click on the pin icon to keep the schema output pinned at the top of all of the output panes. Based on our question, we can whiteboard the path we are looking for. First, let's identify the nodes in the path. We are looking for actors starring in movies by a specific director. So based on the schema, our path contains actor, movie, and director nodes. We have some additional information in that we are looking for a specific director, Alfred Hitchcock. Whether we can use that information depends on whether it's a property of the director nodes. As we discussed in the first practice video, the director nodes have a name property with a value that's the name of the director. If you want to see an example, click on the director node label in the database information panel, and then click on any of the director nodes. The properties for that node and the corresponding values will be shown in the footer of the output pane as highlighted here. As discussed in the first practice video, you can also see a table of all of the properties for all of the node labels by running the db.schema.node-type-properties command as shown here. In our whiteboarding of the query path we want to write, we will add the property criteria for the director node. Although we would expect directors, or actors for that matter, to have names, it's important that we check first to make sure what the name of the property is. If we included the wrong property name in our query, it will return no results since we will have specified a property that does not exist. We now need to add the relationships to the path on our whiteboard. As we did in the first practice video, we added a directed relationship pointing from the director node in the path to the movie node. As discussed in a prior video, this is the only relationship in the schema between these two types of nodes. Since that is the only possible type of relationship from a director node to a movie node, we will omit the relationship type in our query, since if a relationship exists, it must be a directed relationship. Adding this relationship to our path means that only movies directed by Alfred Hitchcock will be returned by our query. The other type of relation described in our question is that we want to know the actors who have starred in those Alfred Hitchcock movies. Looking at the schema again, the only relationship in the database between movie and actor nodes is the acted in relationship that goes from an actor node to a movie node, which is what we want. So we will add that to our query path. As with the directed relationship, we will omit the relationship type here since it is the only possible relationship between these two types of nodes. Now we have the entire query path for our question whiteboarded, so we can start writing our query based on it. As we discussed in the seminar, the query path uses a pair of parentheses to indicate a node and a combination of dashes and the greater than or less than symbols as arrowheads to show the direction of the relationships. The first node in our path is the actor node, and we need to assign it a variable name, so we will use A as a variable name. For this node, we want a variable name because we want to return the actor name property along with a count of the number of Alfred Hitchcock movies they have been in. If we did not include a variable here, we would not be able to return the actor's name. On the whiteboard, there is a relationship pointing from the actor node to the movie node, which is the next node in our path. Since we decided we did not need to include the relationship type, since it must be an acted-in relationship, we will represent this relationship as two dashes and a greater than symbol as the arrow indicating the relationship is from the actor node towards the movie node. For the movie node, we will include the variable name M since we want to count the number of movies for each actor. If we did not provide a variable name here, there would be no means of counting the number of movies. We will include a node type label for the movie node, even though, looking at the schema, a movie node is the only type of node that could occur in these relationships. So we could have omitted the node type here. The next node on our path is the director node. We'll provide a node type since the schema shows that there are multiple types of nodes that could have a relationship with a movie node. As with the relationship from the actor to the movie node, we do not need to specify the relationship type since it must be a directed relationship. The only difference this time the relationship points from the director node to the movie node, so we'll use a less than symbol to indicate the direction of the relationship. In the director node, we also need to specify the value for the name property. In a node or relationship, any property values are included in a set of curly braces, and the property name and value are separated by a colon. Here the name of the director is enclosed in quotes because the name is alphanumeric, which in programming is known as a string. Since the director node will always be for Alfred Hitchcock, we do not need a variable name for the director node, only the node type. Now that we have whiteboarded the path and turned it into Cipher query code, we need to complete the query. Every query starts with a match clause that specifies a path, which we just constructed, and a return clause that says what we want back. Since we do not want to return the paths that match our query, but instead want a table with the actor names and the number of Alfred Hitchcock movies they have been in, we do not need to specify a variable name for the path. Instead, we just say to match this path, so we start our query with just match. For the return clause at the end of our query, we want to aggregate the paths where the actor is the same and count the number of Hitchcock movies they have been in. For example, the actor Joan Fontaine starred in 2 Hitchcock movies, so there would be 2 paths for Joan that match our query. One for the 1940 movie Rebecca, and a second for the 1941 movie Suspicion. Each of these paths has an actor, movie, and director node. If we were visualizing the graph for our query, the result would combine the nodes with the same actor, Joan Fontaine, and would combine all of the director nodes since they would all be Alfred Hitchcock. Instead, for our result, we would like to see a table with a row included with Joan Fontaine's name and the value 2 for the number of movie nodes and the paths with Joan Fontaine as the actor. For our return clause, we want the actor's name, so we use a variable name for the actor node, which is A, and the property we want, which is name. The variable and property name are separated by a period. This syntax of specifying a property of an object using a period or dot separator is very common in programming. In the return clause, we also want to get a count of the number of movies for each actor. To do this, we will use the aggregate function count, and in the pair parentheses, we will specify what it is we want to count. In this case, it's the number of movies, so we use the variable m. Since our return clause has 2 things we want to return, the actor's name and a count of their Hitchcock movies, we separate these 2 with a comma. We are also going to want to sort our results based on the count of the movies so that the actor who starred in the most Hitchcock movies is listed first. To do this, we will use an order by clause, but first we will specify an alias. We will use the alias movie count so that we say as movie count. An alias is a way of saying known as. The last part we want to add to our query is an order by clause at the end. This is used to specify the order in which we want to sort the results. And in our case, we want to sort by movie count. If we don't specify if we want to sort in ascending order or descending order, the default is ascending. So we will specify descending since we want the largest number first. For that, we will use the shortened DESC to indicate descending order. Let's run this query. When entering the query, at the end of the first line, press the Shift and Enter keys together to create a multi-line query. If you just press Return at the end of the first line, it will try to run the query, but without a return clause, it will fail. The query result is shown here. It lists Cary Grant first with 4 movies, so Cary Grant is the actor who has been in the most Alfred Hitchcock movies. This concludes writing and running the query to answer our question. By first whiteboarding the path for our question, even when the query is relatively simple, it has been much easier to write the code.